Most of you guys know that when I was like a couple days before I started middle school, my family moved from California to Tennessee. Now, those two things are not the same, in case you're curious. California and Tennessee in the year 2000, which, yes, I realize makes me very old, were totally different. I had all these friends in California. I didn't know anybody in Tennessee, and we moved there right before 6th grade. Like, you all have started middle school. You know it's like kind of complicated. You don't know where to go. You don't know how to go to classes. I thought recess lasted forever. My first day of middle school, I learned, like, wait, there's no recess? This place is the worst. I was so lost. I didn't know anybody. I had really nowhere to turn. All my friends were back in California, and I was just stuck. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had a younger brother, but if you have a younger brother, you know, like, maybe y'all are really tight, but that wasn't my story of my brother. We, like, knew how to pick on each other really well. We were really good at that. But I just kind of felt lost. Didn't have anywhere to turn. I was good at school, but I didn't really know anybody. And I don't know if you ever feel this way, but I started to make some friends, right? Because eventually you make friends, and as that went on, I found myself thinking, like, these guys have known each other forever. Maybe I'm just kind of like a token friend. You know, like, they're nice to me, but I'm not in. I'm not one of them. I'm just the guy who moved from California. I don't know. It wasn't a great place. You also may know that, like, when I grew up, I didn't grow up a Christian. I thought the whole Jesus thing was just this really interesting fairy tale, but not something to, like, be about in my life. And then when I was in 7th grade, some friends invited me to this thing called FCA. Maybe you have it at your school, I don't know. But FCA was it's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And some friends said, hey, Martin, why don't you come? The only problem was it started at like 6:40, which was before I was trying to wake up and before my parents were trying to drive me to school. But I got to school early one week, and my friends were like, hey, Martin, why don't you come to FCA? And I was like, I guess I'm here. I guess I should go. And I don't remember what the guy who was talking really talked about, but I remember it was my middle school football coach. Yes, I did play middle school football. And I remember in that moment just having this, like, glimpse that God was with me. God was for me, but God existed. That something about Jesus' love was real. And for the rest of middle school, I spent my time exploring that, learning how to pray, learning how to open my Bible and read it and study it. And slowly but surely, you know, I made more friends. I got to know people, and it felt like home, but more than anything, I felt this tremendous peace. There was a moment after Moses helped the Israelites get out of Egypt. Like, they've left slavery. He went and he did everything. God did everything God said God was going to do. And they got out of slavery, and they were walking across Egypt and they get to the Red Sea. It's like the border between Egypt and where these Israelites are trying to go. But they can't cross it. There's no bridge. And Pharaoh in Egypt is like, hey, we let all those slaves go. We should get them back. That was a bad idea. So the army and chariots start chasing after the Israelites, who aren't an army. They're just regular old people. And all of a sudden they can see the army behind them in their chariots. And they're like, we're all going to die. Great. This is the worst. Moses, why didn't you just leave us there? And Moses hears their grumbling, and he sees it's not looking very good. And God says, what are you worried about? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to that stick you have, that walking stick, I want you to hold it up. And I'm going to show you what I can do. And when we're done here, they're not going to have any more doubts about who it was that saved them. And so he lifts up the stick, and all of a sudden the sea just parts. There's moist, dry ground in front of them, and the Israelites start walking through. And they get to the other side, and the army's chasing them through the sea, and all of a sudden Moses puts his staff down, and the water comes down on the army, and the Israelites are safe. And they start to celebrate. Moses didn't save them. God did. And as the water was coming down behind them, and they got to dry land and got to safety and got out of Egypt, all they could do is say, look what God did. There'll be times in your life when you feel lost, alone, frightened, depressed, anxious, and like you don't know where to turn. You may feel like I did when I was a 7th grader in Tennessee. What I'm here to tell you is God is that place to turn. That when you don't feel like enough, when you can't figure it all out, God will make a way when it feels like there is no way. That God is with you when all around you feels like darkness. And there's nowhere you will go that God will not be there with you and bringing you out of it.